Okay, everybody. As promised, I said I would do a video on the new FAROZONE diagramming software for Sector. Now, a lot of people are curious as to what happened here. Just like any other piece of software, things go obsolete, companies decide not to continue contracts, so on and so forth. And there's desire for improvement of different features. And long story short, for all of those reasons, or some of therein, the state has decided to move on from the previous diagramming software to this. That being said, although the interface does look a lot different, I think you'll find after this tutorial that most of what you need to do as a patrol deputy documenting collision scenes is very similar, just kind of moved around a little bit. So we'll go through the top bar here step by step and kind of talk about the different features and then go into diagramming. So on the top bar here, don't worry about the search feature. Obviously, you can search for different functions, road cones, stuff like that, different objects. But hopefully this tutorial will show you where to find that anyway, but it's available too if you need it. The next ones, you can start a new scene, open, save, delete, cut, copy, paste, print scene, print form, so on and so forth. A lot of this up here, you have the ability to, we'll come back to this right here, but a lot of this right here is a lot of the zoom features, stuff like that. When you're using a keyboard or you're using a laptop without a mouse, you're probably going to want to use some of this stuff, but it's not as important right now, so we'll come back to this as we work through. The text is one that we will probably need to come back to in a little bit here, but for the most part, you don't really need a lot of this stuff here. If you want to, if you work graveyard and you want to make this a little darker for your time at night, you can hit this little sun icon right here, which will darken the screen for you, or go back to regular daytime mode, up to you. Favorites, you can create a favorites menu of things that you normally use. That we'll go into that in a little bit, probably. That's more of an advanced feature. And again, most of what you're going to use is going to be pretty easy to find. So moving on from there, we have the home menu. The import button allows you to import or export different types of files. So obviously you're not going to know what a lot of these files are. The one that I do want to continue to dissuade you from, placing image. So with Google Maps, you could theoretically, and a lot of people still ask, can I go to Google Maps, get a picture of the screen and put it on here? I would again caution you against doing that because Google Maps is not an accurate representation of that scene in that moment in time, and could be misconstrued as such. Whereas if you're just drawing a basic diagram, it's obvious that it's a recreation and you're not trying to codify that anything on that particular street from the satellite image is there at that particular moment in time. So I would dissuade you from using this to use like a Google Maps and as an overlay. The quick menu, if you look down here when a lot of this stuff comes up, the vast majority of what you're going to need is you could probably do a basic collision diagram without ever leaving the quick menu. So our line tool, so much like the last program we used, the line tool has many different options for lines. We could draw just a simple line left to right, and it will be right there. We can draw fencing left to right. It'll be right there. I guess, sorry, railroad. Anyway, a lot of different types of lines. There's the Jersey barriers. There's going to be a hazard line, so you can use that for like cone lines, stuff like that. Arrows, so instead of just basic lines, if you want to use your arrows when you show vehicle in motion or you're trying to diagram, you can do that as well. Obviously, a basic crosswalk feature, and so on and so forth. So when you'll also notice that the default color is black, but if I want to change that, so if I just put this crosswalk on here, the default color is going to be white. Obviously, if I wanted to do something different, I could change the color to orange, let's say, and the default color would be orange. Again, probably never going to make an orange crosswalk, but just be aware that with this line tool, it works exactly like the old line tool did. You left-click to start your line, left-click to end your line. Boom, your line is on the diagram. Next one is this continuous line tool. Now, this was the zigzag line on the previous iteration. So you'll notice, again, a lot of different line types you can make. And this works, again, just like the last line tool did. So if I want to make a line, every left click will make another part of this until I right click. When I right click, it asks me if I want to finish command. Boom. It's done drawing the object. So again, what this squiggly line right here, what it's good for is if you have a vehicle making a compound move, like let's say a vehicle makes a sudden lane change, or if you want to draw a lane change of cone lines in like a traffic construction zone. That's much better than trying to mess with the 3-point arc tool or trying to draw multiple straight lines. You can just use that continuous line tool to make a continuous segment of movement. The curve is a little bit different than what we've been used to in the past. What you'll notice is it works a lot like the squiggly line tool. However, the lines bend as you go from different section to different section. Now, this could be just a more advanced way to do let's say, a vehicle moving around on ice or something like that. A more fluid, non-structured movement of complex nature. But yeah, I mean, you're probably going to accomplish the same stuff with the continuous tool. So I guess it's just kind of a matter of personal preference for how you like the visuals. So, but again, it works the exact same as the continuous tool. You pick your line type, you pick whether or not what color you want to fill it with, and every left click until you finish command. Now, here's an interesting feature of this particular tool, and the continuous tool works the same way. If you actually fill it, you create this kind of complex structure. Personally, I do not know of anything involved in our line of work where you would need that, but it's just a more advanced feature. So again, if I do this one, let's say I want to make it blue. Again, I have no idea. Maybe you want to draw a fancy version of Lake Borin in Newcastle, whatever. The point is it's really not something you're going to use very often, but it's good to know what it is. Next tool is the arc tool. This works just like the 3-point line tool from the last segment. So when I click on this button, I'm going to pick the line type that I want. Say we go with this. I'm going to pick the color of the line I want. And the way it works is you click once for your start point, click once for your end point, and then your third one is allows you to do the bend. So 3 clicks, and I have my bent line. So this is good for your turns, anything that needs to be curved around, let's say a curved road, so on and so forth. So works exactly like the old tool. Left click your start point, left click your end point. Third click is the path you took to get there. So this next tool right here is going to be the roads tool. And again, you'll notice this looks a lot like the old road. Couple different things have changed. Instead of just using generic shapes and colors, they've made a few more arrows to make it look a little bit nicer. So in the middle of the road here, this multi-directional arrow object allows you to move the road around. This red circle replaces the old green circle, which allows you to rotate the road around the axis. And as far as these yellow objects right here, this allows you to drag this lane out. So when you have these little islands in the middle here, these yellow objects allow you to do that. On the individual pieces of road, the green arrows allow you to add lanes or delete them. Out here at the very end, you'll notice it allows you to stretch it out or change the angle of the road relative to the intersection. And then, of course, if you actually select a lane line, you'll be able to change the color of the lane if you want. You can change what type of line it is, so on and so forth. So again, very similar to the last one. All they've really done is they've taken a lot of the left object line and moved it into these menus. So instead of always having to refer back to this like generic menu, each particular line has its own menu. So in the middle here, obviously we don't want that to be green. Let's change it back to yellow. It allows me to change all this stuff to match what the road actually looks like in a more customizable fashion. Under the roads, here, let me delete this. So under the roads menu, obviously we still have different options. We have the roundabout roads. We have multi-lane roads like that. Just a lot of different options for roads. Again, the realistic nature of our job, you're going to be using this one right here most often. So we'll go ahead and throw this one on here for now. Now, the text tools. We have the bubble text and we have draw text. So what bubble text is, a little different than before. I can actually label stuff, and then label later on, I can go into this one right here. And change it that way. So what it actually did, I know it's like super small. What it actually did, if you can see it, is it labeled that as vehicle 1. Now, when you're on a larger screen, you'll be able, or excuse me, when you print this out, it prints out on a single sheet of paper. It is a little bit bigger. I don't know if you really need to use that. It's a way to label, but I mean, I personally am probably not going to use this tool. I'm going to just go ahead and do what we've always done, which is go to this regular text tool and put text on here. So when you put the text on here, you can go ahead and modify it this way. Again, this object, this blue object right here, lets you move it around. This allows you to turn it. Now, if you're super finicky about angles, you notice that it's not quite at 90 degrees. Down here, it's at 88.26 degrees. If I put it at 90, or in this case, negative 90, you'll see that it actually lines up perfectly with the screen. So again, how meticulous you are, your call, but that's it. It works the same way. I'm trying to kind of over and over and go back to the thing that you're not seeing a lot of changes. You're just seeing a lot of changes in where stuff is. So after text, we have the symbol menu. Now, the symbol menu, there is a more detailed one, and we'll get to that in a minute. But this is your nitty-gritty. What really am I most likely going to run into in the field? As you'll see, it puts 3 different types of cars, a couple different types of trucks and SUVs, some motorcycles, police cars. The basic overall vehicles you're most likely to see in the field. So if I grab this SUV, for example, it defaulted to this color right here, but I can actually, let's do this, change the color if I want. And then from here, if I want to copy and paste, I can just copy and paste. So, yeah, that's how you change the basic stuff there. Again, going back to the symbols menu, let's say my other vehicle is a box truck. Allows me to put it there. Again, I can move it around as such, and done. Other symbols menus, you'll see there's a basic sign menu. Again, these are just signs you'll see most likely, most often in your different diagrams. If I grab the stop sign, I can put it right there. Again, just keep pressing Control V or paste, and you can move it onto all 4 corners. Very nitty-gritty stuff. As far as the animals menu, again, these are just the most likely, most common animals you'll see. Road marks, these are actual striping. So these are not signs. This is striping that's actually on the road. So if you really want to get into detail, it allows you to put this striping actually here on the road. Again, the world is your oyster. You decide how detailed you want to get. different street lights, so a lot of different types of traffic lights you'll see. This menu is here as well. And your north arrow, cones, and miscellaneous. So crash area, this is kind of like the junk drawer on your on the old version of the diagramming. So if I want to put the crash area, boom. We'll put the crash area out there, adjust it, it's out. My north arrow, it's out. So again, very basic four-way stop sign collision, and I just drew this fiddling around to show you the different features. You don't have to be artists here. You just have to tell the story of what your data you put into the collision is saying. What I would probably do with this diagram to make it extra acceptable is, again, I would grab my line tool and put this line out here just to show the direction of movement here. I might even consider changing the colors just so it's clear what you're looking at here. And then I'm going to take some basic lines and this is how I'm going to do my text. You obviously can do whatever you'd like. I'm not a big fan of this new bubble thing, but maybe you are, right? So let me do this. Now I'm going to grab my text tool. This will be my unit 1. This will be my unit 2. And, as always, not to scale. So, a very basic diagram. I put my symbols out there. I put my lines, my street, set it all up. Boom, good to go. Obviously, these do not have to be works of art. Now, if I really wanted to get into it, let's say these are not solid yellows, we're actually going to go ahead and change them to dash solids. Actually, not even dash solids. Let's just change them to dashes. And again, this is getting really into the weeds about how detailed you want to get. This is a recreation. You're not trying to necessarily diagram things to scale here, but there's a lot of different features to go through. And you notice I did not even leave this quick tab to do this. Templates, we'll talk about templates in a future video or some. I've been approached to ask about, are we going to do templating again? The answer is probably, but give me some time. I'm just trying to get this video out to you now. Last thing, bodies. So men, women, and Stickman. Stickman has returned with all of his joints and glory, but the big ones you're going to probably use are the men and women. If you're doing pedestrians, are they walking? Are they laying down? Are they sprawled out, sitting, standing, whatever? This is a top-down, so if they are walking, I would probably recommend getting them and let's delete him and move him over here. Putting it like that. But overall, and you can label him with an arrow, whatever, if that's a witness. But overall, that's where you're going to find your people. So this right here is, again, a pretty basic overall diagram. In the next section, if you don't want to keep watching, that's fine. That is the basics of how you're going to draw something. But the next section, I'll go into these menus over here and a little more detailed. But overall, this is the nitty-gritty how to use this system. Now, again, it's very similar. They just moved all the stuff around and gave you a few more menus. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Hopefully this was helpful as a basic video. But there's a lot of good people that are working on this stuff around the department, a lot of very tech-savvy deputies, so your partners can probably help you out as well. Or give me a shout. Thanks, everyone. Bye.